Hey everyone, it's Jason Katzenbach here with Matt Clark, Rich Henderson, Shane Oglow, of course, and we got our special guest here, which we're going to get to in a minute, but welcome to the call. As you can see, the smile on my face, that's because I'm in warm, sunny spots. Back home, it's been getting pounded with snow, but I'm actually in Chile right now, so we're in the desert of Chile. It's actually a very neat place where the temperature drops from about 30 degrees at night all the way up to 90 in the day, so it's really wild. But we just got back from an amazing weekend in Aruba where we spent it with 60 fantastic ASM people, and it was incredible. We're going to actually be touching base on that just in a moment because we learned a lot about things that relate directly to this module. Now, as you can see below, Matt Clark is going to be here. He is here, I should say, but his video is not going to be showing, and that's just because he had an important meeting he had to get to in Houston, and being able to make it to this call, he's just being able to do it on his cell phone, and it was critical that he got to that. So we're just happy that he's here. So we're going to get started in just a moment, but I wanted to do a few housekeeping items. Number one, as usual, remember this is only focused on Module 4 for creating your listing page. So any other questions, we're not going to be ignoring you, but we're only going to be focusing on the questions for this module. We have Shane in the background, Rich in the background, and Heather in the background today answering questions. So underneath this video, you'll see the little question area. You can pop your question in there, and we will ask it on the call unless it's already responded to by one of those great people working in the background. So that's about all I can think of. Oh, and one other announcement. I just wanted to let you know that remember, tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., Module 5 is going to be launching, and something that we haven't really pushed a lot, but we want to remind you, is that what that means is over the next couple weeks, you're going to be gaining access to the Facebook group. The Facebook community is meant for that second level of people that once they've gone through the basics, now you're going to have access to a community of people that you'll be able to even get more in-depth support from, more questions answered. It's absolutely fantastic. The only thing to remember about that, though, is adding people to the Facebook group is actually a pretty kind of time-consuming task. So what's going to be happening is next Wednesday, when we start adding people to the group, that it'll take, we can add usually about a few hundred people a day, so it's going to take about 2 weeks before everyone's fully added, but we're going to do it as quickly as we can, and hopefully we figured some things out that we can actually get it all done within a couple of days. But everyone will have that starting next week, and you're going to love it. And one other cool announcement I have, as we talked about, it's a service called FBA inspections. So when you're actually shipping and ordering your product, when you want to use this service called FBA inspections, what it is they'll accept your product, reorganize your product, and help you make sure they can inspect the quality, make sure if you want inserts added, anything like that. And then what they'll do is they'll package it, making sure that it's 100% compliant to how Amazon wants to receive it, and then they'll ship it off to Amazon. So I'm going to have details for you in a moment about that, but how it's going to work is we've been able to arrange that the first 500 ASM people that join get the initial fee waived, and we're going to get a 10% discount on all costs. So I'm going to actually have, hopefully Shane isn't feeling too bad, but if he is, I can we'll communicate something a little bit later. But this is a really great service, and it's something that a lot of you will get a lot of use out of. So I just wanted to let you know that that's coming, and it's a great price, and I've got that. I mentioned that last week as well too. So now with your listing, with getting your listing created, I'm actually going to hand the mic over to Matt because he's got something very important to share with, especially something that we've noticed this past weekend.
Hey everybody, Matt Clark here. So yeah, like Jason said, I don't have quite as exciting of a story as him sitting over there in Chile. I'm sitting in a parking lot in Houston, actually. But yeah, just tethering with my phone, so I didn't want to turn on video because it uses up too much bandwidth. But we did an audio check, so it should be good to go. So yeah, I mean, one thing that I wanted to touch on is that for most of the people on this call, like you likely have been taking some good, solid action. You've set up your Seller Central account, you've done the opportunity finder steps, you've probably even found your supplier, and now you're moving forward. But if you have not done a few of those steps, especially one critical step, which is setting up your Amazon Seller Central account, if you have not done that step, do that today. Commit to that action and doing that today, because that is what's going to help you build momentum towards everything else. Nothing happens, no huge great result. Whether you want to be a multimillionaire, you want to make $100,000 a month, you want to be able to travel the world, none of that stuff happens by inspiration alone. You have to take action steps, and you have to just put one foot in front of the other. That is a very important step towards building momentum for this business, so you can get somewhere, like you'll hear from Brandon on this call and everybody else you've heard from that's doing very, very well with this business. Fully replaced income from job, making a lot more money. We have people, obviously, that we've talked about doing up to $1 million a month with this business, which is insane, that have built it all just by taking one step after another. But one step that can help you build a lot of momentum right now is setting up your Amazon Seller Central account if you haven't already done that. Obviously, if you have already done that, then focus on the next action step. Have you already done your opportunity finder? Do you know what products what product you want to sell, and do you have some backup options? Have you found your supplier? If a supplier is not responding, contact another one. Look and find on Google or on Alibaba or wherever else. Contact another supplier. If you're waiting to get a sample, see if there's anything else you can do with your product. Start planning your brand. Maybe get some designs created. Any of that sort of stuff that you can do to keep the momentum growing, keep the momentum going. The faster you do this, obviously keeping things in line with quality, but the faster you do this, the better results that you're going to get, because the more stuff you're going to learn. If you're able to learn how to find a product, how to source a product, how to create a brand, how to market it, create your listing, and everything else like that, even if you didn't choose the world's greatest product, that's going to be a heck of a lot better than spending the next couple of months still trying to fumble your way through choosing the perfect product. Not the route to go. So just focus on the next step. If you haven't set up your Amazon Seller Central account, do that. If you already have, focus on the next step and do one of those today. If you're here on this call with us, you obviously got a little bit of extra time. So do that either while we're talking or right after this call, and trust me, you will see some amazing results. So Jason's going to talk about, you're going to hear from Brandon, but we heard some other people on this trip that have not been doing this business for very long and are doing extremely well because the business model works. There's more sales than ever on Amazon, and especially right now during the holiday season and when the new year kicks off, if you can get a product live by then, you're going to be in a great position because you're going to get that wave of buying. I know we've seen products in January sell nearly double on a daily basis what they were before then, just because it's a new year. Take advantage of that, ride that wave, get those easy sales, and build up momentum. But yeah, that's really it for me.
All right, cool. I get my mute off. So what I wanted to talk about next was, since we're focusing on the listing right now, something that we need to remember is that when you are dealing with a customer, when they're potentially going to buy your product, you really want to understand that entire customer experience that the customer is going to get with your product. And the first place that begins with is your product listing. When they find that product listing on Amazon, you don't want them looking at your product and looking at it like it's cheap, like it's kind of just half-assed put together. You want them to look at it and right from the get-go have a positive experience. And one of the things that we noticed this past weekend when we were in Aruba and we were working close with these people looking at their listings and everything, what I realized, and what Matt realized as well, is there is still a huge number of people that just are not putting the effort into creating that proper listing. Now, Rich Henderson in a moment is going to talk about just making sure you have incredibly good-looking images, but it's really more than that. It's everything. It's the wording you use. It's the formatting you use. So many people I saw would just still have this big clump of text in their description, and that the question you need to ask yourself is that something that I would not take negatively if I was buying that product? Look at other listings. Look at how when you're going through the buying process, and understand that each section of that page has a purpose to it. And the description, for example, when you're scrolling down the page and the person wants to see something, if they just see this big blocks of text that has maybe 10 sentences all crammed together, nobody reads that. Nobody takes the time to read that. They want to skim. You want everything to be broken up. You want it to be very easily read. And it starts with a good product listing. The thing is, no matter what, if you're able to get your product into inventory within a week or a few weeks, you still have time right now to take time and put a really top quality product listing together. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be the absolute perfect product listing. That doesn't mean that at all. The perfect product listing takes time because you're going to have to like test things and see what your conversion rates and all those kind of things continue to be, and you'll constantly tweak it. But at least make it as good as possible right now by doing the bare minimum of the exact steps we recommend. A lot of times I know like this is a really great opportunity and we're seeing how exciting it is and we just want to get something up there and going. And you'll even hear Matt and I saying, other people, you know, just go ahead, get something going, move forward. But we're not saying take shortcuts. What we're saying is don't dwell on things. Don't get hung up on things. For example, like if you're reading it and you're just not sure if it's 100%, get it up there. And once it's up there, you can later on tweak those kind of things when you have time. But at least make it as good as possible right away. You know, make sure you get those initial reviews. Make sure you really read and have somebody else read the product description that you have in the title. And a big thing here is know who your customer is. Don't make the mistake of assuming that you can talk to everybody at all ages, every demographic possible. That is not possible. For example, if you have even you know, some kind of sports supplement or let's say exercise equipment or house and home thing, to assume that a 19-year-old and a 70-year-old are going to look at it the same, to assume that a man and a woman are going to look at it the same, is wrong. You have to understand who your true target market is, and it's best to focus on that specific target audience first and don't try to be the end-all, be-all to everyone. But at the end of it, if that makes you hesitate and not get things done, move forward and tweak from there. But the big thing is do everything that you're supposed to do. Don't take shortcuts. Don't just say good enough. Make sure you go through everything and do all of those steps, please. To follow up on that, actually, Rich is just going to share a little bit about images right now and just really the importance of this. And, you know, this might sound like a minor detail, but trust me, I promise you, the reason why we're really trying to drive this home is because it's absolutely critical. So, Rich, if you could share your thoughts.
Yeah, sure. It's actually it's interesting what you're saying there about shortcuts, because a lot of people do take shortcuts, and I'm actually going to share an example with you of when I took a shortcut. But first of all, I mean, images, they're really, really critical in my opinion for your product success. I think if you ask anyone who has been successful with ASM, I guarantee you, if you just ask them and say, what's the one thing that can and does improve your product success with the least amount of work, they're going to say to you either your images or your title. Because the title obviously is actually quite easy to do as long as you follow the directions. It's a really simple thing to do. But the same can be said of the images. And the reason for this, the reason these two things are so important is pretty simple in my opinion. When a potential customer searches for something they want, in other words, a product related to your product or even your product itself, they're going to arrive at a search results page, and that page has got 10, 15 results on it. And they just see a mass of these blocks of text and images and everything. So if your main image or even your title stands out from the rest, there is a really good chance that they're going to click on it. And they're going to end up on your product page, and that is 95% of the battle, in my opinion, in getting customers to buy your product, because you're actually getting them to make that first step, and they're literally choosing you before any other product just by actually clicking on your image to go to your page. Most people like me are lazy. When they go shopping on Amazon, there's a reason they go shopping on Amazon. That's because they're lazy. They don't want to go and get in the car. They don't want to drive down the store. They just want to go on Amazon, find the product, and click on it. And because of that laziness, I guarantee you that they're going to be looking at images. Because reading a title, that's really hard work. Looking at a nice, big, bold, pretty image, it's just people have trained themselves now on the internet. They know that if they click on an image, they're going to go where they want to go. And then, once they're on your listing, you're going to have a lot of other high-quality images on your page too. And your customers are going to look at these, and again, it's just going to help you convert. It's going to help them convert into buying your product. In other words, increase your conversion. And the really amazing thing is that high-quality images are actually a lot easier than you think. And in fact, they're a lot cheaper too. And what I was going to say, this example was, my first ever product was a classic example of being lazy and a classic example of thinking I knew better than the ASM course. And basically, I ended up, my first product, I had 2 images on that listing, right? I had just 2. Both of them came from my supplier. One was actually a picture of the product, and the other was actually a picture of the label, and that was it. And I thought to myself, oh, they look good enough. I don't actually, the supplier's done the work for me. I don't have to do it. So I went off and started doing other things, started getting traffic and stuff like that. But the trouble was that my conversions were terrible, and I couldn't figure it out. The product itself, we're going back a while when it was easier to rank, but was ranking quite easily, and it was on the first page, but I was still not getting the traffic I should have been getting. I certainly wasn't getting the conversions I should have been getting. So I figured out that obviously I'd skipped something. I went back, watched the training again, and the first thing that jumped out at me was the images. So basically all I did was I took my product, I had my product in my own house, I took some pictures of it with my iPhone in front of, like, it's a whitish wall, I wouldn't even say beige wall maybe, and I took it from different angles, I put a couple of props in different pictures, and basically I took, I think it was about 10 or 12 pictures, and then from those I took the best 8. Now obviously they weren't professionally done. I'm the worst photographer on the planet anyway, and this was just done with an iPhone. It wasn't done with like lights and a proper camera or anything like that. And then all I did was I went to Fiverr and I looked for people who worked with photos. And in fact now you can actually find, I think there's 3 or 4 at least, listings on Fiverr where people are actually advertising they will make your Amazon images look better. So basically when I did this, there was 2. I basically negotiated with them because generally speaking it's called Fiverr for a reason. You pay $5 for a job. So their job advertising was they would do 1 photograph and optimize it for you. But I negotiated with them. I ended up, the first time I did this, I actually got 8 images done for just $20. But, and all they did here, and this is, if you're an expert with Photoshop, you can probably do this yourself, but for me, I'm not, and it just seemed really easy just to pay them the money, like $20, what's $20 when you're going to get 8 good images? But basically all they do is, first of all, they made them the right size. In other words, they made them big enough so that on your actual listing, when they get to the listing, it's zoomable. And that is critical. It's really critical. Most people shopping on Amazon now expect to be able to put their mouse over the image and be able to zoom in on certain parts of your product. So that was the first thing they did. Then they removed the whitish wall. I said whitish again, beige. They removed the entire background and changed it to a pure white background, which is obviously what Amazon want. And also, again, the pure white, when it's on the search results, actually pulls out your product more. It makes it more visible. And then what they did, they removed as much of the white space as possible. Now, as I said, I've no idea about photography. I've definitely got no idea about using Photoshop. But essentially what they're doing is they're removing the non-product part of the image, in other words, the white space. And what they do is they do it as far as they can so that actually when you actually look at the image on your search listings, the product will appear bigger than everyone else's. And that's because they've removed this white space. They're basically trying to utilize as much of that square block for the actual image as opposed to the background. Again, it's actually amazing the difference it makes when you actually see your product in the launch and the search listings when you do this. And the results of this one, my conversions and traffic went through the roof for this product. I can't remember the exact figures, but it literally went through the roof. It took off, and all of a sudden I had a successful product on my hands. And that was literally from, I wouldn't say following the training because I didn't follow the training in the first place, but coming back and realizing that I needed to follow the training and getting these images done. And it was just so cheap to have it done and so important. And the wonderful thing is it becomes a cycle. And that is, these images, they're going to boost your conversions. So by definition, if you boost your conversions, you make more sales. While you make more sales, your rankings rise. Your rankings rise, you get more traffic because Amazon put you higher up on the page, so you get more sales and so on and so on. So that part of the whole process is critical, is your conversions. And as I've said, the 2 simplest things to do with the least amount of effort on your part, especially with the images, because literally just go and get someone to do it for you. It's just so simple to do and so effective. Now, my business is growing a lot. Obviously, I'm making more money. I'm making more profit. Now, I spend even more money on my images because they are that important. I actually get 3D renderings done for some of the products. And I've also just started using, it's actually, I think, Joey, I can't remember Joey's surname now. He spoke at the event. He talked about a website where you send your product to them and they do really high quality images for you. Again, it's not expensive, but that's what I do now. But honestly, I got all these, basically I got these massive rapid boosts for my product for just a few bucks on Fiverr. It's just so simple to do and so critical. So whatever you do with your listing, don't take shortcuts. There's a reason for everything in the training with the listings, and Jason's spot on. Your description has to be right. Your bullet points has to be right. Your title has to be right. There's a reason you're taught how to do all these things correctly. So make sure you do that, and especially make sure you really spend time on your images. And when I say really spend time, really spend 20 bucks and get someone on Fiverr to spend the time, because you don't need to do it. Take some really ordinary pictures, and you'll be amazed what they can do. That's basically all I've got to say about images, Jason.
Cool. One thing I just wanted to back up on, because I did realize that might have been a little confusing how I said that. When I was talking about get your listing as good as possible and then improve it once you know conversions and that, what I mean is obviously you can't tweak it without getting sales. So right now you make your product listing as good as possible, and then once you start selling your product, that's when you start improving it. And you'll be able to improve it multiple ways. Obviously, looking to see how good your conversion rate is. Again, you have to be live and selling to that, so I'm talking about down the road. But also getting feedback from customers. They'll start to tell you the things they love about the product, the things that you'll want to highlight about the product. You'll also learn the things that customers are not happy with, where you might want to, change your listing a little bit. So there's two steps. Step one is get your listing following all our steps as good as possible right now. And then once it's live and selling, that's when you can improve on it. So you don't need to be a perfectionist right now is all I meant by that. There was another question, and if you see me looking this way, that's because I'm trying to also look through questions here as they were coming in, because I just wanted to make sure I wasn't confusing anything with that. And with the whole idea of the images too, all of the details are in the training. Everything is covered about how to create quality images, what quality images look like. But some people have asked, well, can you show me some examples of some good listings? That's not really hard. Look at the top selling products in the category you're going for. And then when you look at that listing, think, could they have better images? Or are their images really good? Do they have a good description? Is it easy to read? Or could I make a better description? That's what you want to do. Don't look at a listing and say, oh, I want to be as good as that one. Look at the listings, and everyone you look at, how can I be better than that one? How can mine be a better listing than that one? And there's millions and millions of products on Amazon. You can find a lot of good, solid examples to reference. Now, we're going to get into our next guest here in just a moment. And last week, if you were on the call, you'll remember I talked about how I was in Aruba, and I ended up meeting a guy who just started last April, I believe it was, when ASM3 launched, and was already doing over $50,000 a month. And he actually came up to me, just wanted to say thank you for everything. And I was blown away because this person that quickly is making that much money. But also the cool thing is he's doing it while he has, a family, a full-time job, and a bunch of other things. So who I'm talking about is Brandon Slater. And Brandon, first of all, thank you for being here. And you might hear me reference him too tall because he is a very tall man as well, but a wonderful guy. I'm really open and willing to share, and it was a pleasure having him in Aruba. And Brandon, thank you so much for taking the time to be here as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. So if you could just share a quick story about how, when you got started, how you got things ramped up so much, and where you are now, please.
Yeah, happy to. I was part of ASM3. I actually was exposed to ASM in the earlier one, ASM2, but I found out about it just when you were closing the doors, and I wasn't quite ready to pull the trigger. I didn't feel like I could do it that quickly without thinking about it some more. And then I ended up regretting that, because for the next 4 6 months, whatever it was, I was mulling over it, thinking, oh man, I lost all this time. I wish I did it. So as soon as ASM3 opened up, I jumped on it and just really was hungry to get started. I work a full-time job. It's a good job. in corporate America, and I haven't actually left the job yet. I'm going to, I think, next year, maybe hopefully in the early part of the year. But my reason for doing it is I've just kind of always wanted to break off and be an entrepreneur. But I've been at the same job, in different functions for 10, 11 years now, and I was really just ready for something new and something to change. And so the timing was perfect for me, and I just jumped right in and started going. One thing that helped me is that a couple things I'm good at. One is training and outsourcing, and another one is just taking action on things. And so as soon as I got through a module, I did it right then and that week, and just made sure it was done before the next module started. And as soon as I for the pictures, for example, I was already on Elance and finding somebody to do the pictures as soon as that module started, and by the end of the module, I was getting some feedback from that person and getting those pictures done. And so I think that's something that really helped me. That mentality helped me just get out of the gate and quickly. I knew that I had made this big investment, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't go to waste, and I wanted to just put it into action immediately.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. One of the things that I noticed too, just like Brandon, you have like your list, and I'm not going to share it here at all, but like excellent images. And what I'm liking hearing about this is, as soon as the module was done, he was making sure to put into action. And even some of the questions I'm seeing, what's this site? Where can we go do this? I know for a fact all of this stuff, except for the site that Rich just mentioned, is in the training. And the big thing is just do it. If you've never used Elance before, well, start. Just get on Elance right now and post a job listing. If you can have your product, like obviously you need to have something to be able to give them, but don't overthink it. Just move forward. So that's awesome. Now we're going to get into Q&A so that you can ask Brandon any question. But I wanted to clarify a couple things. So Brandon, you're over $50K a month right now, but what's your approximate profit ratio on that?
About 40%, 35-40% around there.
All right, excellent. So standard, like what everyone else is doing. And when you got started, how quickly from when you got started till you actually had a product up on Amazon?
It was pretty quickly. It was before the end of the 8 modules. So probably module 5, module 6 around there. I was up and selling.
Okay. And did you get your product locally, like domestically, or did you go international, like overseas?
I looked at both options really closely, and I negotiated. I started negotiating with a few things overseas, but I ended up going domestic, and most of the reason was I just was anxious to get started on something, and I figured I could go overseas on the next one. I mean, there's definite advantages to both, and I know people that were just as successful going overseas. But for my choice, I just found something local that I could do and get it up and going.
Excellent. So for anyone on the call right now, if you have a specific question for Brandon, just put in capital letters the word Brandon, his name, and then what the question is, and then we'll make sure to post it. But any questions you have about product listings or anything that you want to cover, post those questions now, and we'll be sure to cover them. And then they'll just Rich, and then we'll share for us here to be able to ask those questions out. Now, Brendan, obviously you haven't been around the block that long when it comes to this business model. But before you got into this business model, did you have any physical product experience at all?
Zero. I had never sold anything online before. I mean, I can make my way around a computer. I'm not incredibly tech savvy, but I can do it, and I can get on and figure things out. But no, I hadn't done this type of sales. I hadn't sold anything online before.
Very cool. And correct me if I'm wrong. You said you have a full-time job, obviously a family. How much time per day were you dedicating to that?
Yeah, it was really for me it was 2 to 3 hours per night, and that was after I got the kids to bed at around 9 o'clock. I'd get on, and I'm a night person anyway, so it's not hard for me to go till about midnight every night. So that's just the way I work. But yeah, and then a little bit on weekends too, and just anytime I could fit in, 20, 30 minutes here to here and there to work on it. But I'd say, overall it was less than 20 hours a week.
So with less than 20 hours a week, what did you find was most effective for you being able to take advantage of that time? Would you make sure that time was very focused, or how would you handle it?
Yeah, I definitely had to make myself extremely efficient during that time, and like I said, I started outsourcing as soon as possible because I knew I had to. There was no other choice, and so I was on Odesk and Elance right away, and I was figuring out how to do the whole outsourcing thing. A couple things that I found that worked really well was I would get on there and it's, first I'd go search for people to see if I type in keywords and see who was doing what I needed, like if it was pictures, type in 3D pictures and things like that. But I ultimately ended up just posting a job on there with exactly what I needed and waiting for applicants to come in. And I'd usually, within posting the job, usually within a couple of days, you have 20, 30 people that have responded to you, and then and that way you know that they've been already pre-qualified a little bit because supposedly they've read your posting. Now I found that wasn't always the case. Some of them didn't read it, but you've pre-qualified to one level, and then you start qualifying again, and just going through each one really carefully and finding out of those 30 people, I've almost always been able to find one good person that was really helpful to me and gone in and started Skyping with them and doing some explanation of what exactly I needed.
Very cool. So one of the things I like that you did, and I know not a lot of people do that, is how you got right into the outsourcing thing. And even though we do go into a lot more detail on outsourcing in later modules, since you brought that up, I wanted to really emphasize, if any of you do start on that outsourcing right away, the advice Brandon just gave is very important. Make sure you review everybody. Don't just think, oh, this person looks good and goes with them. Because you will get people that didn't read your list and they just, mass reply to everything. And take it serious. Start talking to them. And what's really cool is start with the little jobs. Like, this is perfect. If you've got this module, if you've got to do images, have someone that can just start on that. So that's a great tip. So I've got quite a few questions for you here, Brandon. So the first one is, did you start with one product, and then how soon did you add a second?
Yeah, I did start with one product. I also, when I was selecting a product, I tried to find something that would be a good candidate for having related products later on that I could kind of release in the same brand. And some people do it different ways. Some people just kind of release stuff in different categories. I really wanted to focus on building an actual brand that would be, bigger than just one product. And so I did that one product, and then I launched the first one in May, and then by about middle of July, so what is that? It's 2-3 months later, I launched a second one.
And one of the things I did, and Brandon's absolutely right too, with finding those complementary products. So I guess the best example I could give you is, let's say you've picked a spatula that is for, there's different types of spatulas. You can have one for picking a cake, one for a piece of pie, one for, flipping pancakes. It's figure out, okay, if I'm going to do this one spatula, what logically is something that is such a close thing but slightly different that it would be so easy to transition to and make my already current audience want as well, because they're already interested in this other product. And that worked tremendously for them. So it was a great idea. And when we say start with just one product, I want people to understand too, that's so that you go through the whole process. And really, if you just have one spatula, like if all you do is sell spatulas, but you have a variety of different spatulas, that kind of is just one product in a lot of ways. So, but the big thing with one product, because we had another person share where she was doing very well with an ASM, however, she decided to throw a whole bunch of products online, and now she has 40 more products than she did a year ago, and is still making the same amount per year. And she realized because she just tried to do too much at once. So whatever you try to add more products, make sure you have the systems in place where you can manage each product individually well. So,
Totally agree.
so Brandon, when did you start with your product? Wait, how much? Sorry, you already answered that. So Brandon said he got his product live last May, you said, and when did how quickly did it take from there that things started like selling really well, that you felt you made a good decision?
It wasn't long. I mean, the first month I was already selling things. It was 1, 2, 3 a day, sometimes 4 or 5 a day, and then in month 2, June, it was kind of still around that level, and then July it started kind of getting more close to 10 a day, and just kind of kept increasing from there, and it's increased every month as I've added new products. That's definitely helped get exposure for my existing products.
Very cool. So out of all of this, I mean, because this is all new to you, I mean, you've only been doing this for 6 months. What's been the biggest surprise in doing this that you have found?
Honestly, the biggest surprise is that it works. I'm one of those people that had tried this before. I over the years, I've bought a lot of information products. I've wanted to, like I said, I've been working this corporate job, but for years I've wanted to go out and be an entrepreneur and take advantage of the internet as a way to work, from anywhere. And I've looked at a lot of different programs. I've bought a lot of different things online, and nothing has ever been something that I could just implement and make work. And so what you and Matt have put together, the biggest surprises to me has been like this is legit. It can work for almost anybody, and it's actually something that can create long-term a business and wealth, and it's been wonderful for me.
Awesome. Here's a question: how did you start with your packaging? Did you just do basic packaging or more elaborate?
I started pretty basic, and honestly, that's another thing that I would say is if that's what it takes, go ahead and start basic, because I've talked to a lot of other Amazon sellers in the Facebook community and elsewhere where they've kind of got caught up with that, and they've spent months trying to perfect their packaging, and the result is they have not been able to get to the next level and start selling their product. And so for me, I had a label. I had my supplier create a label, I outsourced the design of a label. Then I sent it over and had my supplier print it off and slap it on the product. And I was embarrassed when I saw the result of it. My first batch did not look very good, but nevertheless, they were selling, and it was getting my feet wet, and I was getting stuff done. And so on my next batch, after the first 300 or so, I went and found another outside company to make all the labels for me, and then they looked really great and really nice. And so from then on, I had some really nice looking labels. But if I had been one of those people that saw that initial label and then let it stop me and let me take another month to go make another label, it would have really inhibited my ability to get going and get out of the gate fast. And so I would recommend to everybody on the call to just kind of, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay that it's not perfect. The main thing is take action and get something done, and then you can keep refining it as you go. It'll be a constant cycle of refining your product.
Absolutely, and that perfectly relates to what I said earlier. It's not that you want to throw it together so it's horrendous, but at the same time, you don't even know if it's going to sell yet. So get it up there, do it as good as you possibly can. But yeah, if you're waiting 2 months to fix a label and not even go live yet, yeah, you're going to be very far behind everyone else. But the big cool thing here is it's never too late to get started. So anyone, even if, here we are, Module 4, Module 5 starting tomorrow, and let's say you've only finally just started being able to go through the training, that doesn't matter. Just from this moment forward, every day take action, do something every day. You know, you've got a guy here right now. You're hearing he's not on this. He's not getting paid. He's doing this purely out of his wanting to give back, and he's telling you what's working for him. A couple hours a day, being really focused and making sure every week he's taking action. Now, some people have concerns with getting photos and stuff done online. Did you have any issues? Like, how did you have to clarify rights or anything with the photos when you were using, like Odesk or anything?
I did, and I went to, some of the stock photo websites, and different ones have different licensing agreements, I understand, but I think most of them are intended for you to be able to buy the rights to use that photo, and and go ahead and use it. And so I haven't got caught up on that too much. I found some stock photos that I liked. I sent it to my photo person, asked them to superimpose my image in there, superimpose a label on there as a 3D image of the product, and just kind of make it. The result was great. I used the stock photo as kind of like the background, and then I had my image in there, and it looked like a real photo. And so I haven't had any problems getting that done.
So, out of curiosity, do you remember what that cost you about to get those photos done?
Yeah, I mean, $2, $3, $4 to buy the stock photo, and then I think I had it around $10 or $15 per photo for the 3D rendering and everything like that.
Very cool. So again, I just wanted to remind people, like, this doesn't, you don't have to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars, like, especially when you're just getting started out. You know, you can get stock photos, pay someone $10, $20 an hour, they can make amazing photos. And I know now, because Brendan, hearing you say this, I mean, I've looked at your list this weekend, it's beautiful. Like, you've obviously reinvested a lot to make it that much better as you've had the profits to be able to reinvest, correct?
Yeah, I have. I'll say those photos are still the $15 photos that I
really?
Yeah, and they turned out great. Again, it was a matter of interviewing a lot of different people on Elance in this case, and finding, looking at all their examples. I spent quite a bit of time looking at the examples of the photos they had done in the past, and finding ones that I knew were similar to what I was envisioning for mine, and then having them work on it. And they did just a fabulous job. I think I will continue to try to improve them, but so far they're still those original ones.
Cool. So apart from the outsourcers, are you doing this on your own, or do you have any partner or family members helping you at all?
It's just me. Yep, doing it all on my own. My wife is. She would like to help, but she's got 3 little boys to look after, and at the end of the day, she's just exhausted, and I would be too if I were doing what she was doing all day. And so I don't really ask her to really get in and help too much. I just do it.
You're a wise man, my friend, a wise man. Did you go to the? And I don't remember if you were there, and I do apologize. Did you go to the last live event?
I was there, yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Are you going to the next one?
Yes, I am. I got a lot of value out of that live event, and I would recommend anybody on the call to just make the decision to go. It's for me, it was something that, I wasn't, when they started saying register for the event, I wasn't quite up and ready and going yet, and I was like, man, do I really want to spend whatever it is, $500, $600, $700 to go to Las Vegas and go to this event? But I just said, if I'm serious about this, I'm going to go, because by the time I get there, I'm going to be further along, and also I'm going to get a lot of good information to help take it to the next level, and that was definitely the case.
Very cool. Yeah, it's funny. We were talking to a lady just this morning where she was complaining, well, not complaining, but just upset because she tried explaining this to her family, and she's just not getting support. And that's one of the things that the live event can do too. I recommend, if you can, bring that person to the live event, and I guarantee you will change their mind. This is a real thing, and you will just love the support and community and the training that you get at it.
Yeah.
Here's a beauty that we get asked all the time. How did you get your initial reviews?
Oh yeah, I'm different than most people. Most people got it from family and friends, and I for whatever reason I really wanted to find a different source for that, and so I I started using I think you'll be learning more in the next few modules about tools like Facebook and other ways to get some reviews. And so I immediately just started with that and started kind of getting people out of Facebook to sign up for a list to get some products and things like that and be able to review them. And it really wasn't that hard. Within 2-3 weeks, I was already up to 5 or 10 reviews.
Very cool. A good idea that, I was talking to my friend Joey about this, where, if you're really struggling to get those initial reviews, make sure you have a supply of your product at your home, and then when friends and family come over, give them the product. You're not asking them for anything at that point. Just say, here's the product, and hey, this is what I'm selling on Amazon. If you could give me a review, that would be great. So instead of forcing the issue, invite a few people. Don't do an Amway or something like that where you sit them around and start doing flip charts. But just give it to them and say, here's my product. I'd love you to, ask them for their feedback right there. What do you think? What would you improve? And then say, would you guys be able to give a review to me on Amazon, and tell them why the review is so important. And when they actually see that and also have the free product in their hand, they'll be thankful. They'll be like, oh, cool, I can have this? Yes. And then you can tell them how to do the reviews. So that's a great strategy that I never thought of before. That was just shared with me. So something to think about. Okay, another one here. Did you send the new labels to your supplier and have them placed onto your package for your second or third reorder, or did you put the new labels on yourself?
Yeah, I had the company that printed the labels, shipped them directly to the supplier, and the supplier put them on, and he actually gave me a little discount per unit too, because he didn't have to be doing the labeling himself and making the labels himself, and so knocked off 10 or 15 cents per unit just by doing that.
Okay. So when you upgraded your image, I'm assuming when you upgraded your label, it was just a matter of getting the new label-looking product or the box, I guess, over on top of the other image, correct? Because you did improve your label, you said, right?
Yeah. The thing is that the label was fine. It was the printer that the supplier was using was terrible, and they just came out looking washed out and not, just kind of a paper like, printing them on paper. And so once I sent them to a professional printer who was able to put like a gloss to the label and kind of just do it the way that it was supposed to be done all along, it was fine. So I didn't need to do a whole lot of adjusting.
So it wasn't so. You're not saying the look of the label was bad. It was just the quality of the printing.
Exactly.
For the reviews that you mentioned doing, this person's asking, did you have to give away a lot of products to get those reviews?
A fair amount. I'd say probably. I wanted to get up to 50 reviews as quick as I could, and to get there, I think probably 100 or so products I gave away.
Okay. Cool. You mentioned, where are we here? Oh, here's a good one. When were you able to start taking money out of the business instead of just reinvesting it back into the business?
That is a good question. I've had the ability to take money out of the business instead of reinvesting it back in, probably for, once you get to that, I'd say, 20,000 a month or so, like you can start taking a little bit out. I haven't personally done that yet. I'm still working, and so I have another income source, which is lucky for me. But because of that, I've just been reinvesting everything back into the business. I continue to do that today, even though I'm at the 50,000-60,000 mark. I'm still just wanting to grow it and wanting to buy more inventory, release more products, and I think probably it'll be a little while before I start taking money out. And that's just me. I mean, it's not that you don't have to do that. That's just the decision I've made is I want to grow fast, and then I'll get to a point where I can, start taking money out maybe 3-4 months from now.
And that is really, you are in a blessed position to be in a job that you actually enjoy. I remember talking to you about that just on the weekend. And then, being that you're well paid there, to be able to just not worry about it and reinvest right now and just let the business grow. Not everyone's in that position, but and a lot of people aren't wise too. we've seen so many people. I know me and Matt have talked about this a lot, and why we made the commitment to each other to be fiscally responsible within the business. Because all of a sudden you see this money, and it's like, oh, I'm going to go buy my new car and this and that. Well, it's better right now to reinvest on those new products. So excellent. And I think this is the last question we're going to have time for here, Brendan, and this has been great. You've been very helpful. Are you currently advertising using anything like Facebook, PPC, or any paid advertising models?
Yeah, I'd say that the majority of my advertising is within the Amazon's, pay-per-click sponsored ad system, and then also with Facebook. And between those two mediums, I focus most of my energy on those two. There's other great ones out there that I'm wanting to get to, but those have been enough to kind of get the initial exposure that I needed to start growing.
And that's actually a really good point too, though, because a lot of people think that they have to do everything, and what happens is you don't really do anything well. So yeah, just figure something out, whether it be Amazon sponsored ads, and get that going really well. Then when you have time, focus, or hire someone to do the other one. So that's cool. I don't see any other questions coming in. And Matt, I know you're tethering in. I'm not even sure. Are you still there? I see your picture, but.
Yep, I am.
Okay, cool. Did you have any last questions or any closing remarks for Brandon?
Not really any questions or anything, but yeah, I mean, obviously, really appreciate, Brandon, you coming on here, but just so everyone knows, like Jason said, I mean, this is perfect example. This isn't somebody who started Amazing Selling Machine, 2 years ago, has been doing this for years, not somebody who started off selling a bunch of physical products before he got into this, someone who just jumped in, followed the training, and really sort of went above and beyond, when it came to, creating good product images and really doing the stuff we say in the training, but a lot of times you get caught up in doing all the other steps, and so you kind of skip over a few things, but it's great proof that this stuff works, and it works right now. So yeah, just that's really it. Just really appreciate it, Brandon. I know you didn't have to do this, but you did do it, so thank you.
Cool. And Brandon, I don't know if you have any closing remarks, anything you'd like to share, just some motivation to help those people really see that they can do this.
Yeah, I think it's been a recurring theme on this call to take action, and that's kind of what I'd close with. I've been a little bit surprised at times. Maybe it's just because of the type of person I was, but how many people in the program got caught up with things and just didn't just kind of get their product up and selling for one reason or another. They were mulling over something, and that I can clearly separate the people that have been successful from the people that have not been successful, as those who've taken the action, not put things off, even if it wasn't perfect. They got it up there, and then they just kept perfecting it from there. And I'm happy to be counted in that group. But I would say to all the callers on here, if there's one thing you could take away from this call, make that the thing. Just do something every day, one thing every day to further your product getting launched, and I think you'll be doing great.
Awesome. Well, Brandon, thank you so much. I sincerely mean that, for taking time out of your day. I know you've got family, everything else, plus a successful business to be running. So the fact that you were willing to take time out of your day just to help others be inspired and educated to succeed with this business is truly appreciated. It's been wonderful to get to know you. I loved spending those days with you in Aruba. And I hope you have a fantastic day. On behalf of everybody else here, we'll say goodbye. Remember, this recording will be made available tomorrow morning, and it'll be along with Module 5, which is opening up at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. And keep that momentum going. Keep taking action. And thank you for being